All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Deputy Secretary Martin, for being here. And what an exciting opportunity with the Belong in STEM initiative being launched today. I'm Wes Hall. I'm Vice President for Philanthropy and Education at Battelle. Battelle, Heather introduced us as the backbone organization of STEMx, and I'm just thrilled to have state STEM leaders and industry partners and mentors here in the room today. I know that some magic can happen when those three groups get together. So thank you to each of you for traveling and being here today. It's my honor and privilege now to introduce one of our featured speakers today, Dr. Justin Sanchez. Justin is one of my esteemed colleagues at Battelle. He is a tech fellow, which is one of our top scientist positions in the company. He has an incredible pedigree, who understands the value of STEM education. And when we talk about helping students see the STEM jobs and careers of the future, that's the work Justin's doing today. Justin operates on the cutting edge of science every single day, applying science and technology to solving some of the world's toughest problems and challenges. So we're really fortunate to have Justin at Battelle. He is an expert in biotechnology. He has 3 degrees from the University of Florida, which I will note the University of Tennessee beat 3 weeks ago in football. But and when Sheila and Dane Boynton get here, please remind them of that when they arrive. But at this time, I'd like to introduce Dr. Justin Sanchez.
Thank you so much for having me here, and thanks for the very kind remarks from Wes. It's so thrilling to be here today to work on something that we're all just so passionate about. It's changing the lives of a bunch of kids across our country and really creating an opportunity. I was really kind of moved by the opening remarks by the organizers, say, like, let's create an environment in which you can learn something new. I'm going to share with you a few things that we've been working on that might change your perspective of a branch of science that I'm really passionate about, biotechnology, and how that might play a role in our future. Let me see if I can get the slides moving forward here. There we go. In my journey of biotechnology, it's an unlikely one. And when I got reached out to give a talk on STEM education, I was like, I don't know if I'm the right guy for this yet, but I think you'll find out throughout the course of this talk today that I really did have STEM education that played a huge role in my life, even though STEM education programs weren't even a thing during the time when I was coming up. So a little background on me. So Wes mentioned the University of Florida. I spent pretty much the whole early part of my life down in Florida. I was both at the University of Florida and University of Miami. I got called into the government around 2013, and I spent about 6 years over at DARPA. That's a high-tech research branch of the DoD. If you've never heard about DARPA, it's the organization that helped to develop the internet, GPS, a lot of things that we have in our everyday life today. It's a really wonderful, intense kind of a place. And then today, I'm a fellow over at Battelle, and I was really inspired to go from government to Battelle because I wanted to work on science that changed the world and does something for the betterment of humanity, and that's what Battelle really is all about. Now, what's interesting is, in all of that, I often think about, like, what gets kids into science? And for me, it was stuff like this. Biology is beautiful and resilient and adaptable. I mean, this is like one organism in a whole ecosystem that's around us that does these amazing things. And I often ask questions like, wow, that's really cool. What can we do with that? What can we learn about it? How will this impact our life? So very much inspired by biology, and I encourage you to find out in kids what is inspiring to them. Because in the bigger picture of things, they probably don't care about like STEM education as a whole, but they might care about really cool biology and how it could be impactful in their lives. What's amazing about biology is that the president, a month ago, just signed an executive order around biotechnology. And that's amazing to me because when I got into this field, it really wasn't a thing. And now to see the President of the United States saying biotechnology is going to play a huge role in our future, it really means a lot. And if I take a step back and think about this, we're kind of at that stage that microelectronics was, a handful of years ago. Biotechnology is that new and emerging technology in the country, and the people and the kids that embrace it. Those are the ones that are going to have prosperity in their life, and it really impacts all of us in a lot of different ways. And that's really where the learning part of this presentation is going to come in. I'm going to share with you a few examples of how biology is really impacting all of our lives in a very interesting and important way. Let's go to the next slide here. There we go. Amazing examples of new and emerging technology. So first of all, frontier of the brain. So this is also what got me into biotechnology and inspired my career. I was always curious about this 3 pounds of goop that's between your ears that's locked inside of our head. And I asked a question when I was going through my training, like, what could we do with that? How do we unlock the potential of the brain? And that idea becomes very true. People that are paralyzed, for example, in which the signals from their brain cannot get out into their body so that they can do all the things that they want. So I started my career very much in the area of medical, what's called neurotechnology. And it turns out since that time, the frontier of the brain has expanded even beyond just the medical side of things. It could be as we're getting older in life and we want our brains to function a little bit better, maybe we can unlock the potential of the brain in that way. Or maybe if you're an athlete, maybe you can unlock the potential of your brain for your human performance. So with all of that in mind, I went to my mentors and I said, look, I want to kind of try to tap into the brain. If we can go to the next slide here. There we go. I went to my mentors and I said, I want to develop medical neurotechnology. And what does that really mean? It's tapping directly into the neurons of the brain, reading out those signals in real time, and translating that into behavior. And this is just one of the videos of some of the people that we worked with when I was at DARPA. So this is Tim. He's paralyzed from the neck down. He had one of these brain interfaces, and he's able to think about moving that robotic arm and holding his girlfriend's hand. And if the sound was actually coming through, he said that really changed his life. It made a meaningful connection. The next person here, her name is Jan. She's also paralyzed from the neck down. She has a brain interface, and she's telling Scott Pelley how she can think about controlling this robotic arm, even does a fist bump with Scott Pelley, and he's like, that's amazing. And she says this really changed her life in a way that she never thought she could really have after her injury. Again, it opened up possibilities in ways that were not there before. Jan even said that she wanted to fly an aircraft, a virtual aircraft around Paris. So he said, yeah, we can do that. So we created this simulator where she's banking an aircraft and she could explore virtual cities. We not only had this technology where we could read out from the brain, we could also write signals in. So this is Nathan. He's also paralyzed from the neck down. And they're pressing on those robotic fingers, and we're sending the signals in the brain. He can actually feel it. He was saying what fingers were being pressed upon. This is a person living with amputation. They have a peripheral nerve interface and feeling a virtual wall and saying, oh my God, that is so cool. Again, neurotechnology, once a vision and now really impacting people's lives. This applies not only to movement and sensation, but also people with memory loss. So this is a person that has memory loss. We ask them to recall 12 words. They try to get through 3 of them. They do the old face palm there and could not recall the list of the 12 words. Now with the direct brain interface, they're just kind of rattling them off here, one after the other. And they get all of them in kind of a record time. And the person that's in the room actually says, oh my God, you got all of them. And the person participating in the study said, I could just see those words in my head. I knew exactly how to respond. So really amazing, shows the power of neurotechnology in a lot of different people's lives. Now, biotechnology does not end there. There's other areas that biotechnology plays in. And if we go to the next slide, it impacts more than medicine. I think they're trying to click over there. While they're queuing it up here, part of my experience in the Department of Defense is really moving beyond those technologies, well beyond what we do in the laboratory environment. So one of the things that we announced just last week is that Battelle, as well as Ohio State University, formed a new partnership with a new entity called the Neurotechnology Institute, and it's a platform where people can get the cutting-edge education and translate medical neurotechnologies out into the real world. So if you'd like to learn a little bit more about our Neurotech Institute, I'd love to speak with you more about that. Again, as it ties into STEM education. Now, again, beyond neurotechnology, biotechnology plays a huge role in things like infrastructure. And I'm going to show you a military example first, but before I do, think about even areas of our country that might be hit by natural disasters, and you might need to repair that infrastructure really quick. When I was at DARPA, we started a new program in order to use biotechnology to regrow runways. And if we could just play this video here, if you just click it real fast. This is an Osprey, it's a military aircraft, and you can see that a runway that was not treated with a biotechnology, you get all this dust really flying everywhere, and those pilots that are in operational missions have a really hard time landing. And then with a treated, growable runway, you're able to land that Osprey without a whole lot of dust. Again, it's an amazing accomplishment of biotechnology, and the Department of Defense always shows this video that it is a new and emerging opportunity for biotechnology. Beyond infrastructure, if we could go to the next slide again. What about logistics? Again, all of us are feeling the impact of logistics in our everyday life. Supply chain is greatly impacted. What if we could take the logistics out of it and actually produce the materials that we need on site and locally? Get another project that Battelle as well as DARPA is working on, in which you can take waste streams, so think of plastic bottles, you put them in this bioreactor and expose it to some microbes, and those microbes are engineered to turn that plastic into a usable material. In this case, it's lubricant for military kinds of purposes, but we see a vision in which you could turn those carbon atoms into food or any other valuable kind of a material. Again, sounds like science fiction, but really an instance of biotechnology affecting everyday life in terms of the logistics streams that we have to all deal with every day. What about infectious diseases? So in the opening remarks, you heard the organizers talk about how COVID really transforms the way that medicines are brought to people. Well, over at DARPA, we saw this pandemic coming. Even a few years before that, we started a program called the Pandemic Prevention Platform, in which messenger RNA vaccines needed to be produced within 60 days of knowing what that pathogen is. And one of the companies that was funded under that program is a little-known company called Moderna. So all of you are beneficiaries of biotechnologies that had some roots over at DARPA as a part of these early programs that really did change the world from the very beginning. And then biotechnology, again, is not just in logistics or medical devices or infectious disease. What about the intelligence community? There's a branch of biotechnology called epigenetics, where there are these kind of signals on your genome that can tell what you have been exposed to. So maybe there are some bad actors that have been exposed to some chemicals that they shouldn't be exposed to, or maybe there's a person that's been exposed to a chemical agent that puts them in harm's way. New biotechnology that can be used by analyzing the epigenome that can predict what bad actors might be doing, as well as the exposures of military personnel in order to help to keep them more safe in the job that they do. Again, I'm sharing with you all of these branches of biotechnology because they're new and emerging. You may not have thought about them in the context of STEM education, but if they are starting today, those students of tomorrow will absolutely be impacted by them. And then one last example here for you, if we just flip the slide one more time. Again, supply chains, we very much worry about rare earth elements. You might have heard that in the news a little bit. The Chinese control a lot of the rare earth elements that go into like our cell phones or other kinds of electronics. Battelle, as well as some of our partners, were developing technologies that can use biomicrobes that extract rare earth elements in a very, very different way than just mining them. So think of a bioreactor that you put in a slurry of material. Those microbes can extract the rare earth elements, and then they can be later processed for use in any number of kind of industrial applications. So again, I know I'm bombarded with you a lot of information here, but these are the emerging biotechnologies that are not only impacting your lives now in a way that you might not even know, but are going to impact your life well into the future. And the kids that are being educated today are going to be the prime people that are a part of all of these industries that are emerging. Okay? So with that, let me just, I want to pivot here and go to the next part of the talk. I mentioned at the very beginning here, when the organizers reached out to me, they said, look, we want you to give a talk on STEM. I said, how can I possibly do this talk growing up? I've never participated in or benefited from a STEM program. So it seemed a little weird to me. But what I learned, and if we could click one more time, I was flat out wrong, okay? And I'll admit to that. And let me share with you why I was really wrong in all of this. So first off, where did I come from? So kind of a common story. I'm sure a lot of you have a similar story. So my family are immigrants from Galicia, Spain, as well as Sicily. came to this country with no money in their pocket and wanted to start a new life. I grew up in Florida, and I put up there the Florida man. And again, to my colleague, well, he was just here a minute ago from FIU. In the 80s, Florida was not actually the cradle of high technology and things like that. But nevertheless, things are changing. But just in terms of a journey, my journey, and thinking of that in the context of other students' journeys that might also come from a place maybe similar to Florida, things are not always laid out for you as perfectly as one might think. My family was in the restaurant and bar business. I spent most of my early age in a bar, grew up in a bar. And then my first experience of STEM education came in, and that's that last part of the slide there. Mentor lesson number 1, you are not doing this. You need to get out of here and go realize a potential that is beyond living in a bar, okay? And again, I share this story because we are all a part of the STEM education experience for people. We are all mentors. It might just be a little nudge you give to some student that you randomly meet that puts them on a journey that gets them out of the direction that they are headed today and into a direction that helps them to realize their full potential. So let me go, if you go back one slide. So it's all about the best mentors. Again, we're all participants in this. And again, in my journey, I was trained by Jesuits. They have a very unique love of learning that was instilled in me in a very early age. I spent a lot of time with some anesthesiologists throughout the course of my career. And I remember talking to one anesthesiologist, and I said these words, I don't understand these things. And they came back to me like, things? What are you talking about, things? People's lives are on the line here. Be specific, ask questions, focus, be precise, because everything that you do really matters. I also spent some time with an electrical engineer from the IEEE, Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers. Say that 3 times fast. And again, I remember this person saying, you don't know how to use your brain, Justin. I'm going to teach you how to think. Again, mentors play such a huge role in this. And then lastly, University of Florida. I went to the leadership there very early on. I said, I want to build brain-machine interfaces, like the video that I showed you. They didn't laugh me out of the room. They go, interesting idea. We don't really get it, but if a neural engineering program doesn't exist, we'll help you to build one. Again, creating opportunities, having the foresight to see potential in people and creating that for them. That's what this experience that we're all talking about here today is all about. And I'm in it with you to help to create these experiences for others because I've been such a beneficiary of these kinds of things myself. And then let's not forget about art. So the Deputy Secretary, she did mention this a little bit. There's the STEAM part of things. Art plays a huge role in things, and I'm a huge advocate of science and art go hand in hand. And I don't just say that, I actually live it. While I was at DARPA, we did this event called Rhythms of the Brain. Since the dawn of time, humans have been dancing around fires with rhythms, and it synchronizes brains. Militaries also use rhythms to synchronize brains. We asked the question, what is this all about? So we brought some scientists together, some musicians and artists together. So you have a scientist, an artist, a first responder, and then that guy in the upper right-hand side, Stuart Copeland. Some of you might have heard of him. He's a drummer for that small band called The Police, right? He was also there. And again, it was just this great experience where science and art came together, and we had a very deep understanding of rhythms of the brain after we got done with that. So again, I encourage you to bring creativity and interesting experiences for people to be a part of everything that we're so passionate about. So just to wrap up here, a few final thoughts here. It's not only science, it's not only art, but I'd also like to share with you as we're training the next generation of the future, we're training them around very powerful technologies. Biotechnology is a very powerful technology, so we also have to train them in the ethical, legal, and social implications. We want them to be responsible scientists so that they build technologies for the betterment of humanity. And I'd just like to share, again, don't read all of this, but biosecurity, biosafety, ethics, plays a role in all of this. There are some branches of biotechnology we must do. There's some branches of biotechnology we probably shouldn't do. And we need to train students to be wise and able to make those kinds of decisions as they mature into their career. Now, again, we've been talking a lot about my experience and the ingredients of what a good STEM experience is all about, but what can all of you here do? First is, Participate in life as a mentor. Again, the people that affected my life, they weren't in STEM programs, but they were dedicated to helping people to realize their full potential. Second bullet, foresee new and emerging technologies. You should be reading all that you can. I still do this every day. There are branches of technology I know nothing about, but I'm constantly reading science, nature, just go on the internet. It's free, right? And try to find these new branches of technology. Create growth. I saw a slide in the introductory remarks. What was it? 65% kids will be in careers that don't exist today or might be changing in the future. Grow and adapt your business. You might be doing something today that might not be relevant in the future for those students that we are training today. Nudge young people in directions to fulfill their potential. Even if it's a random interaction with them, it may make the biggest difference in the world. Establish new training programs if you can. And lastly, provide resources. Again, we've all been successful in our careers. We have time, we've got financial support, we can create programs, we have influence. Let's use all of that in our own ways in order to create these kinds of opportunities. Now, again, I've been sharing a lot of high-level ideas. Let me give you a concrete example as we wrap up here. What if we created a new apprentice program for students in farming communities, right? There are a lot of disadvantaged farming communities in the United States, and it turns out that if you're a farmer or the child of a farmer, if you know how to farm, you probably know how to do something in biotechnology. And maybe we can help some of these kids find a career not only in farming, but beyond farming, create training programs. You could partner with a local education resource to create that training curriculum, maybe some lab experience. Maybe if you have a business in an area that could benefit from students from farming communities that know how to do technical work, you could bring them in for some on-the-job training, and maybe those students ultimately get hired by you for your company to grow the prosperity of your company in the future. Again, this is one of many ideas of creating new, really interesting opportunities for people in new and emerging areas of science and technology. Now, again, just to close all of this out, you might think biotechnology is this new and emerging area of technology. This is a list of all the companies and universities that I and Battelle have just recently interacted with. Like, they don't even fit on that slide anymore. So biotechnology is, without a doubt, an area that is changing our world. It's a part of our industrial base. It's an area where we're going to need a lot more students that are trained in biotechnology, because they'll grow their careers in all of it. And lastly, I'd love to leave you with the Battelle motto: it can be done. I'm completely committed to STEM education. Battelle is completely committed to STEM education. Let's find a way to bring all of our resources together to change the lives of some students into a way that they never could have ever dreamed. Thank you so much.